where we are going to talk about how you can make your horse more responsive without becoming anxious. Yes, because at least in my career of horse training, which now spans 2 decades, there seems to be either one problem or the other. It's either horses who are ignoring signals and becoming a bit dull, or you have horses that overreact to signals and you can't really use your leg aid without the horse, exploding and going faster. So the way to solve this, either if it's that or this, is actually to be very aware of something called your sequence of cues. And if you are here, let me know where you are tuning in from, and also let me know if you have heard about the sequence of cues. Yes, because that's the whole clue to understanding how horses learn, and it's also the whole clue to being prepared. So that your horse, if you have a dull horse, becomes more and more responsive, or if you have an anxious horse, that your horse becomes more and more calm and softer to ride. Yes, because in this sequence of cues, there is one thing that is like the major point with all, and that is that the horse learns from the release and not from the pressure. And there's also a second thing I want to add is that we don't need to use escalating pressure to give a release. So very often, if a horse isn't responding to the leg aid, it's like give more leg aid, more leg aid, more leg aid until the horse responds. But instead of escalating the pressure, which then is starting to hurt the horse when things escalate, we can, just continue asking until the horse goes forward, and then we release and stop, which is taking the leg aid off the horse. But what very often happens with these dull horses is that when ridden, to prevent them from stopping, people are then continuing to use the leg aid to keep the horse moving. And if we do that, the horse is going to be more and more dull towards the leg aid and more demotivated. Because the only place where the horse then gets the release is when stopping. So the horse is going to think even more about the stop. So very often with these dull horses is that we tend to continue using our aids to prevent them from doing the wrong thing, which is going slower or stopping, instead of making sure we release on the right thing. So a dull horse, in general, you want to ride with your legs off. Yes. But if your horse is anxious and overreacts to the leg aid so that you cannot use the leg aid at all, it actually works better to ride with the legs a little bit more on the horse and make the horse comfortable with the leg aid and not run away from it. Because if the horse is anxious about the leg aid and running away from the leg aid, we can't really use it in a functional way. So with a horse like that, it could be advisable to get the horse a bit accustomed to have the legs not like nagging the horse, but close to the horse, and also make sure that the horse understands what the leg aid actually means. And at least in my program, the leg aid means move the hind legs and activate the hind. It doesn't mean run faster with the front legs first. So if we then can be a little bit specific and actually explain to the horse what the leg aid means, a horse like that who is like difficult to ride with the legs on is gonna understand the leg aid much better and is going to be much safer and more comfortable to ride. Actually, one of the first horses I trained was like that. He was super sensitive to the leg aid. So I just skipped the leg aid. I taught him like different ways with my voice and the reins and stuff to, slow down and go faster. And yeah, it went to a point. But then I was like the only person who could ride him because he would just bolt off with anyone else. And he also, his anxiety never got solved. He was always like this anxious horse and difficult to ride. So I then had to basically retrain him from my own training and teach him that what the leg aid actually means and get him accustomed to be ridden with the leg aid. Yeah, so that was a lesson learned. So it wasn't me being super clever rider, being able to ride this horse nobody else could ride. I had basically trained him in the wrong way because I had released on his anxiety of the leg aid. So every time he got anxious of the leg aid, I just took my legs off and went like, okay, sorry, I'm not going to bother you with the legs. And the same can very easily happen with horses when it comes to, for instance, the whip or the stick. So yeah, this might be a little bit of a digression, but sometimes if a rider um, releases on the horse being afraid of the stick, like you mount the horse, you're carrying a stick in your hand, and the horse is scared and you throw it away. You just told the horse that if you get scared of the stick is going to go away. So the horse is going to be more and more scared of it. And then when you might need it to explain to the horse to move the shoulders or to get your leg aid to actually work on the hind part of the horse, to then avoid escalating pressure, you can show the horse what to do with the stick. It's like a helping aid to make the horse understand. Yes, anyhow, then you can't use it because the horse is scared of it. And it's not necessarily because people have been beating on the horse with the stick. It's usually because the horse has been afraid of it and people have just thrown it away and stopped using it instead of making the horse comfortable with a stick. And if you can't ride a horse with a stick in your hand, you probably can't ride that horse out in the forest either, because there are many sticks out in the forest on the trees. Or you can't, pass a bottle from one rider to the other while riding. There's lots of stuff you then can't do with this horse because you have accidentally released on the horse being scared of stuff, which then makes the horse think they're doing the right thing by being scared instead of getting rid of the anxiety. If that makes sense. Yes, let me know in the comments below if you have encountered horses that are afraid of stuff and how you have solved it. Yes, we actually have a video series inside the Ride Like a Viking members with a horse who was terrified of the lunge whip. And it wasn't because she had been beaten with the lunge whip, like many people thought. Like she has been traumatized and whatnot. No, the reason for her being scared of the lunge whip was because when doing groundwork, like often happens when people don't know how to communicate with horses through body language, they communicate through the whip. So they use the whip behind the horse to get the horse moving, and they use the whip in front of the horse to get the horse stopping. So she was just super reactive to the whip, so you couldn't like have a whip in the surroundings. She would just freak out if she heard the whip. So it was basically a problem with the sequence of cues. So you want to start with body language, and then you want to explain to the horse what to do with your stick or your flag or your whip or whatever you want to use to make the horse understand what to do. And then the second thing, after you have done the body language and you might have done some sounds, and then you explain to the horse what to do, is that I always use the whip or the stick or the flag or the rope on the space I want the horse to move out of. I don't necessarily use it on the horse. So many people, when they have a stick in their hand and is lunging a horse, they are aiming for the horse. But it's much better to aim for the space you want the horse to move out of. So you don't hit the horse, because of course that can also make them scared, and it's not what the whips and ropes or flags are used for. And it's also not what horses do when together in a herd. You might have seen like a stallion herding mares. What does he do? He takes his head down and he scoops over the area he wants the mares to move away from. He like swings his head like a snake. He doesn't go like attacking the mares and biting them to get them moving. He claims the space to move the mares out of the space. Or like a mare would do if she wants personal space. She isn't necessarily attacking the horse close to her. She might switch her tail. Choo, choo, choo. And then the horse start backing away because she's claiming the space like with her tail. And that's what we can do too. Yes, so if you have a problem with your horse either being dull to the signals or overreactive or scared of ropes and sticks and flags, then you might want to look into your sequence of cues and plan the sequence ahead. Like you want to start with body language, follow up with sound, and then show the horse what area you want the horse to move away from. And if you do this right, the horse is going to then respond to your body language first. And that's when you don't need flags and sticks and ropes. You just need your body language, because after all, that's what the horses understand the best. Which then brings me to a fourth problem, is that if our body language and our aids aren't aligned, so we want one thing, but our body language tells the horse something else, we are going to get a very confused horse. Yes, some become pushy and others become anxious, because what we are saying with our body language doesn't then make any sense. So a good example is if we have a horse that's in our space and we go like this, go away horse, while we step backwards, we are going to draw that horse closer towards us, because stepping backwards is a draw. So even though our hands are waving, or our whip or flag or whatever is waving, trying to get the horse away, if we step backwards, we're still going to draw the horse towards us. So the horse might then come towards us with energy, which is the exact opposite of what we meant. Yeah, so that can also get people in some kind of predicament. So always start with the body language first. And I think for riders, this makes sense when in the saddle. So we start with our seat aid and da 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 da, and then if the horse doesn't understand, we explain it in a better way and then release on the right thing. But on the ground, very few riders know how to communicate with their horse through body language. And this creates dangerous situations, and it also creates a disconnect between the horse and the rider that we then bring with us up into the riding. Just as if we are able to then connect with the horse on the ground, we can bring that connection up with us into the riding. Yes, and if you want to learn more about this and how you can communicate with your horse through body language and make your horse circle around you without the lunge line and make your horse follow you at liberty just off your energy and feet, then make sure to join our free training, which is tomorrow, and absolutely free of charge. But there are now not that many seats left. So if you want to snatch your spot, then comment yes below and I will send you the invitation. so that you get everything you need to succeed with communicating with your horse through body language on the ground in a way that makes your dull horse more responsive or your anxious horse less anxious, because there is clarity between what you mean and what you actually do with your body. So you can basically, just by pointing, you can get your horse to run off in a circle around you, and just by using your body language, you can get your horse to stop and face you. And that's always the best way to communicate with horses, because this is how they communicate amongst themselves. So even a wild horse is going to respond to your body language. Yes, and especially these traumatized horses or horses others have given up on, it's very often just unclarity between the body language that has been going on and the handling. And once you solve it, these horses transform very, very fast. Yes, so let me know if you want to join, and if you want the invitation, then comment yes, and you will be a horse whisperer in no time. And I wish I learned this when I took my trainer's degrees and rider instructing exams, because it would have made everything so, so much easier with horses. Okay, so thank you so much for joining this evening, and maybe I see you on the training tomorrow. Bye for now.